So first of all, thank you, Koba-san, for inviting me to this first meetup of 2021. We've all had a very interesting 2020, and I hope that that this is the start of a very different, although also probably interesting year for us. And when Koba-san came and asked me if I can do this this meetup, I was of course very happy to. And I gave a few topics, and I understand that he asked this of the community, and you chose to hear about the journey from software team agility to business agility, as I'm happy to present this presentation today. So for those of you who don't know me, maybe a very short introduction. So my name is Inbar Oren, and I've been a developer. I started my life as a software developer, a team lead, a project manager, a product manager in various companies, some small, some very, very large. I've been helping enterprises with Agile for over a decade. So helping, again, small and large companies implementing agility, starting from exactly where we're going to start with software teams, and ending with how do I take this to the entire business, and how do we think of this completely outside of the realm of software teams. And I hope to take you through some of that journey and understand why we're making that change and what does it mean for us. As Koba was so kind to say, I am part of the framework team, and I've been working with Dean Leffingwell for the last almost 6 years, working on various versions of SAFe, from lean system engineering, which never became an official version, through 4.0, 4.5, 4.6, 5.0, and whatever will come in the future. And so when we get to the Q&A section, you can ask about anything we talked today, but also feel free to ask any questions you have about SAFe, not just the what it is, but also the why. And I'll be happy to share some of the stories of why and how it became what it is right now. The slides I'll be sharing today, some of them are just pictures, some of them are from courses that you'll recognize, and some of them are for things we are now building and you will see in the field shortly. So hopefully it will also be a nice preview for starting the year with some of the new things that will be coming out from Scaled Agile this year. Outside of work, I practice martial arts. I have an Okuyirisho in Shinto Musoryu Jodo. And this is something I've been doing for almost as long as I've been doing Agile. And I'm still a beginner, just like I feel in Agile sometimes. It feels very similar. And because we're going to talk about scale, and we're going to talk about everything and how it works at scale, I also do family at scale. So I have 5 kids with 2 sets of twins. And because this is the Japan meetup, I can also say that all of them have Japanese middle names. So from eldest to youngest, this is Sakura-chan, Nami-kun, Akiko-chan, Yuki-chan, and Hiro-kun. So it's a big family, and this is us in Times Square right before it was shut down for everything that's happening right now with COVID. But the journey I want to take you today is what happened with before scale became necessarily the thing, and before business agility. And I want to talk a little bit about how everything started, how it went from software teams to where we are right now as an industry. And I think it kind of started with people finding that building software project was not easy. Projects were late. They were not what the customers had expected. As they were building new software products, and as software product became more prevalent in the 80s and 90s, they found out that this was not an easy thing to do. And the practices that they were using were not necessarily very successful. And so in 2001, a group came together in the United States and created what I'm sure all of you know as the Manifesto for Agile Software Development. And that's not why they came together. They came together to try to find more of a method. How do we build software in this new world? But they couldn't come to an agreement. And you can imagine, you bring a lot of really motivated, really uh, high, opinionated people into a room and ask them to agree on anything. It never works. So they couldn't come up with kind of a process. This is how it's going to work. The best that they could do is come up with some agreement. They created this manifesto for the agile software development, and they shared it with the world. And people around the world started reading it. And the first people to read it was not everybody. It was mostly software engineers. So software engineers around the world were looking at this new message that came as a new ideal of how we can develop software that will be different. But when they read it, it was really interesting because they looked at it, and here's how they interpreted it, especially early on. They read in it, we don't need processes, we don't need tools, we don't need documentation, we don't need contract, and we don't need plans, which is kind of how we like to work anyway. We just ignore all those stuff and just run ahead. And so they were very happy with this. And so they just assumed this is just the end of all those practices. And so the beginning of the 2000s were some people trying to just ignore all those ideas. We don't need those concepts. And that didn't work so well. So that led to some very, very poor initial agile projects. They were failing faster, which is good, but they were still failing very miserably. And the reason for that was they were kind of ignoring what it said on the bottom. And they were ignoring it because it was written very small back then. And we kind of tend to ignore the things that are written in small on the bottom. We know this, it's always done like in commercials on TV or in things we buy. There's some kind of warning at the bottom and nobody bothers reading it. And this one said, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more, which means we also need process and tools. We just don't want process and tools that stop us from having people interact with each other. We need documentation, but the way to show progress is working software. We need contracts, but just sticking to a contract is not the right way. We need to work with our customers. And there is no responding to change if you don't even have a plan. If there is no plan, there's no change. It's just running wildly. And so they started looking at this and thinking, how do I implement this? And the first really agile way of working that was kind of prevalent was extreme programming. But soon after, and actually it came before the Agile Manifesto, the thing that kind of took the stage was the Scrum process. It was very simple to understand. People could relate to it. You form a team, you work in small chunks of time, you take a backlog, you plan it, you work on it for the duration of the iteration or the sprint. You meet every day to talk about what's going on. And then at the end, you demo what you've done, you learn how to do it better, and you deliver value to customers. It was very, very simple, very, very easy, and people could really relate to it. And so this took hold for the, once people got over that initial step of we don't need to do anything, this was what happened. And as you can see here, even within this simple process, some of those things that they tried to ignore early still exist. I mean, we plan an iteration. That is a plan. Now we might change that plan. That's okay. But we still have a plan. So it's not we don't need a plan. It's just we embrace change. We showed the results to a customer. Now, it doesn't mean that we didn't have a contract. We said in the beginning of the iteration what we're going to build. But at the end, what we value is showing things that are working at the end of the iteration. And so they learned how to do it. And for a while, things were good. And I remember that time, people were starting to see value. It was mostly small teams, but they started seeing the value that Agile can bring. The problem became that as those separate teams were working and focusing mostly on the software side, we started having bottlenecks. We started having things not work as well. And we can expect that. If one part, if we're taking a system thinking approach, if one part is starting to run really fast and other parts can't catch up, what happens is you just move the problem down the pipeline. So if we're looking at a whole value stream and we've solved part of it, we need to make sure the other parts get solved as well. So those bottlenecks were really starting to create a problem. And Scrum didn't really offer necessarily a way to solve it. So the next thing to emerge, roughly kind of around 2000 and I don't know, 2009, 2010, was Kanban. And the Kanban in software comes, of course, from lean manufacturing. So the roots are embedded in the Toyota production system. But really thinking that if we want to make sure that we don't have bottlenecks, the first thing we need to do is we need to identify what the flow is. If we don't know what the flow is, if we don't understand how stories of a team flow from an idea to done, we have no idea where the bottlenecks are. So the first rule was, let's just visualize what would happen and what we're working on. And then the second part was, let's put work in process limits. Let's make sure that that we actually are focusing just on the most important things. And those were those little numbers that they started putting on top, saying there can be no more than 2 stories in progress, or more than 6 in ready, or more than 4 in review. And the reason was, if we can make sure that that's what's happening, then work doesn't get pushed, but rather pull, which was, again, a very important lean concept. The concept was based on the idea that while the water is high, there's no way to see the rocks. We can't find where the problems are. If we want to understand where the bottlenecks are, if we want to understand where the rocks are, the first thing we need to do is we need to lower the water level so that we can even identify where the problem is. Now, that ties with some other work that was done at the same time. If you think about Eliyahu Goldratt's theory of constraints, he was talking about the fact that every system in flow has a bottleneck, and one bottleneck. And any amount of work invested not in the bottleneck is an hour wasted, and every hour invested in the bottleneck is an hour gained. So this was a thought that was emerging. And as teams started looking at this, it first started from inviting new types of team to come on this agile journey with us that were not originally part of this work. And the first ones that were part of David Anderson's original work on Kanban in software were the support teams. So we had the software team who were pushing new software, but then the people who were trying to identify and do third level support didn't necessarily know how to react that way. And when they were told, okay, work in Scrum, let's do Agile, they were very excited, but they had no idea how to plan their work. They had no idea how to apply Agile to their context. And so the introduction of Kanban, the idea of don't worry so much about planning an iteration, but rather create a backlog, limit the amount of work in each time, and then pull it in, allowed them to actually become part of whatever was happening. And again, this was good for a while. So for a while, we saw expansion beyond just the pure software, or even the software teams that could just, that are building new code, to also the software support team that were doing third level support and were creating patches in the market. And we saw another expansion from just where we started as an enterprise, as an organization, and as a community, to higher level of agility. But then we hit the next snag, and the next snag was as people started seeing software agility very successful at a software team, they started saying, okay, but my problem is not just a team. I'm trying to build bigger and bigger things. And it wasn't just a small odd team somewhere trying to do this. This was bigger and bigger companies trying to identify, how do I solve the dependencies? How do I actually bring everything together And how do I bring multiple teams and understand the dependencies and map what they're doing and really think through their work and really think through how do I take those same concepts that Scrum and Kanban introduced and take them to a higher level. And as people were struggling with this was around the time that Dean introduced the Scaled Agile framework. Now, this is version 5, and he back then it was barely even version 1 that started with his book, but it was the beginning of thinking beyond the team. There's not just a team, there's more than a team. There are things that transcend just one Scrum team working, and we need to understand how do we manage the dependencies, how do we manage the work. And Dean introduced a few things in there that kept evolving as we were evolving the framework. The first one was, let's take the basic Scrum concept and then scale them to a team of Agile teams, an Agile release train. If a team needs to do iteration planning, we're going to plan a longer horizon that we're going to call a PI, and we're going to do PI planning. If teams are doing daily stand-up, we're going to do an art sync. If teams are doing an iteration review, we're going to do an integrated system demo of everything we built. If teams are going to do, are going to prepare for PI planning, are going to do backlog refinement, we're going to do some work to prepare for PI planning as well. If teams are doing iteration retrospective, as a team of Agile teams, we're going to take the work and we're going to do an inspect and adapt. So that was a very useful starting to the information. But we didn't just stop with how does Scrum work, but we actually started building a program Kanban. And I remember the first time I did a program Kanban with a company, I asked them, here, what are the features that you're building? And can you please put these on a board? And can you please place all the work that you're doing? And an architect hung us something on the wall and they wrote something on it. And I remember the product manager walking over and looking at it and said, what is that? And the architect was looking at him as if he was an idiot. He said, what do you mean? That's the most important thing we're going to be building in the next 6 months. I've been working for the last 3 months, designing the architecture for this new part of the product. And the product manager said, we killed that concept 2 months ago. We decided not to do it. And the architect said, nobody told me. There was no clarity of what everybody was working on. And so a lot of that work that happens even before PI planning and during the planning was not visible. No, not to mention that there was no clear understanding of what does it take to move from one step to another and how do we solve this. So I'm not going to delve deeper into this because that's not the goal of the presentation here, talking about how the program Kanban works or how do we evolve that. But the movement from here was, again, this provided a lot of space for a lot of people and people were very successful for a while, but then they ran into the next problem. And the next problem was, as you can see, there's a jump here from implementing to done. And so this created a new barrier, a new bottleneck. Imagine that you have a new software group that can push things out very, very quickly. But the group that is actually releasing it out to the market is taking it out, the operations group, hasn't started moving any faster than it was before. So the operations group can deploy something let's say every 6 months. But now instead of creating one version every 6 months, the software teams are now creating a version every 2 weeks. Did that make the situation better? Did that improve flow? No, we're just running against a new blocker, a new thing that is blocking us. And so we started understanding that there's need to be focus on the work that comes after the software team, beyond software, expanding to everything that comes after the implementing, validating and staging, deploying production, releasing, and really trying to think, what does that mean? And that was part of a whole movement that was happening in the world, the DevOps movement. And the DevOps movement didn't start with SAFe. It started with people, mostly on the ops side, saying, we need to change the way we're working. Our being the guardian and being in charge of this kind of the pause symbol, don't release everything, don't do anything. is not helping our organizations, because the world is changing. We need faster changes, and we need better understanding. And I remember talking to one of those ops people during that time, and they were, and I was taking a course, and they were saying that, imagine we found a problem in production. What's the most important question to ask? And the answer for the instructor was, why did we change anything? And that made me laugh. Why did we change anything? Well, because customers needed new functionality, because we needed to react to the market. We needed to do something. So that mentality of let's just hold everything, let's not release anything, wasn't helping. So ops started changing. The problem is they were kind of changing and saying we need to work better with devs, but they were not necessarily equating it with agility. So DevOps started as a separate movement of let's evolve ops to be faster. Well, that's not better. Imagine I have this old legacy software group that's still working in waterfall. They're releasing things over 6 months, maybe a year. It takes them a long time to release something. Well, if it takes them a long time to release something, but the ops group is now very good and can release something every 2 weeks, still haven't made the situation better. It still is exactly where we were before. So we need to make sure we're not stuck there as well. So we need to extend this to everything that it takes to actually deliver. We need the agile teams, we need development, we need operations, we need other people there as well, compliance, architecture, security. We need to look at everybody it takes to actually deliver pieces of value to the market so that we can be more successful. And I think a lot of people, when we got there, when we had DevOps and SAFe, when we integrated Agile and DevOps, and we can get an idea and we can build a feature, and we can take it all the way to release to the customer very quickly, thought we were kind of done. We did our job. That's kind of the promise of Agile, and that's where the future is. Now, we've made a huge progress. Remember, we started with a small software team working by themselves. We now have everybody in charge of taking something from an idea to reality and being released to the market. But the reality wasn't that simple. The reality was more complicated than that. What we ran into was just the next bottleneck. We ran into the next problem, because now we have very efficient software processes that can take an idea when it comes and translate it really quickly to the market. But what about the entire business solution? So imagine, just as an example, imagine that I'm an insurance company and my entire IT is super agile. They can take a feature and turn it into a production instantly. But the entire business side still works very slowly. So between the idea of we need a new insurance product to we need to think about that insurance product, and we need to identify the terms of the insurance product, and we need to write all the legal terms of the insurance product, and we need to think about how we will market this new insurance product, and we need to define what it is, and we need to define what the terms to sell it. That process was still taking a very long time. And at the end, they would come up with a specific requirement to IT that would go and implement it, let's say, very quickly. We got to a point where organizations could be faster in the execution of software, but not necessarily faster in how they were actually running their entire company. Now, we're not the best example at SAI. We're a very small company, and you work with and represent very big companies, but we run our entire company in SAFe, whether it's sales or marketing or finance, everything runs in SAFe. And so we started seeing the same problems with other people, with other companies, but their problem was larger. Their problem was more complex. So we started thinking bigger than when we were and started thinking, can we actually introduce more robust topics? Now, hopefully some of you have seen this. This is from the current Implementing SAFe class. And it talks about the fact that there are two types of operational value streams. The goal of the two types of value streams. The goal of the operational value streams is to deliver end customer value. And the goal of the development value stream used to be to develop the systems. So you can see there's the the operational value stream, and then there's the system, and we just build systems. That's all we do. But what if we could think beyond that? What if we could take it into a more robust situation and rethink what operational value streams are and what development value streams are? So this is from the next version of implementing SAFe that will be coming soon. And it talks more extensively about what operational value streams are and what development value streams are. Operational value streams is how do we actually implement something and deliver the actual product and solution once it's been defined to the customer. The development value stream is how do we convert a business hypothesis to a technology-enabled solution. Now, SAFe still doesn't concern itself with things that have nothing to do with technology. We're still focused on mostly on technology-enabled product, but that solution could be anything. It could be a software product, but it could also be, again, an insurance product, a new insurance product. It could be a new type of process through a hospital. It could be a new type of loan from a bank. So how do we really think about that overall problem? And as part of this, started defining that there are multiple even types of operational value streams. There's the operational value streams of, for example, fulfilling a customer loan. It starts with, I want a loan, and it ends when I get a loan and then repay the loan and close the loan at the end. Now, that loan is a product. Somebody did a lot of work to define what this thing, from a software, but also from a non-software. There were underwriting, there were finance, there was marketing. There was a lot of work that was done to define what is that loan product. And then eventually there's the operational value stream that delivers it. If we're looking at cyber physical systems like a car, then there's the manufacturing. The manufacturing plant takes the material and assembles the car. But who defines how do you build a car? Who defines the spec of what a car is? Who defines how do you take the different parts and assemble them? Now, that is a really big definition of a product. And that's part not of the operational value stream. Then it could be a software product operational value stream, which is in a way simpler. What we're actually building is a software product. Or it could even be a support value stream. So for example, think about the fact that we need an audit for a company, or we need to hire people. So there's a lot of operational value streams that are happening within a company. And the development value streams are there to really think about how do we enable them and how do we build that entire business solution. So now we're moving from just thinking about the software to thinking about the entire business thing we're trying to build. So that was a huge shift. And with SAFe 5.0, we've introduced SAFe not just as a platform for technical agility, but for business agility, defining business agility as the ability to compete and thrive in the digital age by quickly responding to market changes and emerging opportunities with innovative business solutions. Now, it's not the goal of this presentation to talk about 2020, but we all saw a huge market change in 2020. We all saw the impact we had. And we could clearly see when we were talking to some of our customers, which one could react to it and which couldn't. And which could react to it on a team level, which could react to it on a system level, and which company could actually change its strategy and say, we need to do something completely different to react to everything that's happening with COVID-19. And we could see that people who are doing SAFe for a longer time could start having those strategic conversations at the portfolio level and decide how do we change strategy. And other people who are either early on the road or not even on the road at all could either work on how do I change some digital systems, how do I change a specific software application, or even we can't move. We just can't do anything fast enough to respond to this. Now everybody's working from home. We have no idea how to react. We have no idea what to do. And so we start bringing other people into the fold as we're thinking of it. And I want to talk a little bit now, give some example, a specific example of what could this mean? What does it mean to take things that were born in software development and really take them to business teams? What does that mean? And I'm going to use as an example a marketing team. So imagine that we now have a marketing team, and they're seeing that they are either a blocker for a part of the product that is being created, or they are even part of the bigger business solutions, and they have no idea how to make their work faster and better, and how to react to this new agile, and how to support flow. So as we're moving now, we're actually changing it. And if before we were just talking about, operations and development, now we're now talking about the fact that we need to add other people to the thoughts of the development value streams in SAFe. And this could be support, this could be marketing, this could be legal, this could be other things, and we'll talk more about that later. So now we're thinking about how do we bring everybody on board as we talk about agility? How do we actually take agility to the next level? And we kind of defined and saw by working with some of those business teams a 3-step process that they usually go to. And it starts by being agile. It starts by a marketing team, for example, asking themselves, what does it mean? I want to be an agile team. So the first thing, again, they were going back to those roots, saying the first thing is I need to think about the Agile Manifesto. I need to form an agile team. I need to have a product owner. I need to have a Scrum Master. And I just need to work. And sometimes Scrum will work perfectly for them. Other times they will find, especially in some of those more operational teams like finance or marketing, that it doesn't work for them. And they might need Kanban because a lot of their work is unpredictable. Our own marketing team, roughly half of their capacity goes to unknown work that will emerge during the PI. So their first thing is the first thing that those kind of teams usually do as they're trying to think about it is they're saying, okay, I want to be a team. I just want to form as a team and achieve some of those benefits that agile teams have. The second part becomes, I want to understand how I'm part of a bigger thing. So not just how do I create better marketing, but how do I create a better overall flow? How do I create a better value stream? And then it's how do I really think about and change what marketing means in this new world? So it started with just an agile marketing team. And just the fact that you bring everybody to a team and puts them together to really think through what people are doing can make things a lot faster. Because now I might have the production manager and the content strategist and the copywriter working very tightly with subject matter experts and a graphic designer and a UX. And I'm creating an agile marketing team that just works easier together because they're in a pod. And so all the process time and the lead time becomes smaller. It allows them to really focus on all that waiting, all the waste that's in the process, the muda, and really think about how do we make our word first internal to marketing faster and more robust. But relatively quickly, as they evolve their team, they're finding out, and we're in a different place. They're making that evolution faster than software team used to make it, because software team took them a long time to really realize they're part of a value stream. They need operations. Marketing usually doesn't live in a void. So, and they don't just focus on the product that they're creating. They're usually marketing a different product. And so it became, and plus they're already seeing a lot of the agile scale that we have right now and other things. So they're faster arriving to the point of just working as a team is not enough. And sometimes it starts as okay, we're a shared service. We're a team, but we'll work with your agile release train as a shared service. You can contact us. We're not part of this. We're like, stay there, we're here. But we're a shared service. We might show up to PI planning or send a representative to PI planning so that we can understand our work, but we're kind of separate from it. We're starting to understand that there is a value stream. We understand that there is an agile release train, but we're not part of it. We're still on the side. We're just a shared service outside of the art. The next pattern is usually, again, they're starting to come to more SAFe events. So they're coming to PI planning. They're coming to system demos. So instead of show us at the end what you've built and we'll think about how to market it, let's talk during PI planning and we'll let you know what information we need so that we can actually really represent this kind of behaviors and drive a better PI planning, and will show up to system demos and see what's really being built by the art. So really marketing is a stakeholder in SAFe events. Then the next part is you really start seeing individuals on Agile release trains within the art. So sometimes they'll just get somebody. We'll put a person that will do internal communications or graphic design, and you can have them on the art. Most of marketing is still completely separate to this. We are working as our own Agile teams, but we'll put one person on your art, and they will work and they will coordinate. They will work more. They'll be part of a team, so they'll go to every team activity. But still, it's mostly a you and us kind of mentality and separation. And then start seeing the Agile marketings join the art. Sometimes, and we see two patterns here. One that in some places is kind of more of an anti-pattern, where we start seeing whole marketing arts form. Sometimes that could be a good thing. A lot of the time it's a bad thing, because it's just trying to take the same patterns, but still create a lot of silos between the flow of value. But in other places, we actually see whole marketing teams, marketing database management, campaign management, email marketing, marketing analysis, copywriting, graphic design, form an Agile team, and then join the Agile release train. So as we're building products, we're no longer just saying, okay, we will build the software part, and then other people will take them across the line. We're now saying, no, we're one art that's responsible now for both building and marketing a solution. So that starts changing the conversation. It starts building new informations. It starts building new conversations into the flow of work. And then we see them start to think about, well, but how do I change what marketing even means? So there's this thing that the marketers create in the world called the Agile Marketing Manifesto, where they're trying to take the Agile Manifesto and connect it to marketing terms. So things like adaptive and innovative campaigns over big bang campaigns, customer-focused collaboration, and other things that are directly out of the Agile Manifesto, responding to change over following a plan. Many small experiments over a few large bets. And that starts changing how marketing actually works. So for example, instead of saying, okay, we're going to have this big campaign. If we want to promote this solution, we're going to build this huge campaign that's going to be, we're going to have TV ads, we're going to have billboards out there on trucks, we're going to have things go out on mobile, we're going to send things by mail, we're going to have commercials on the radio, we're going to put some things on newspapers, huge billboards, we're going to do websites and search engine optimization. Instead, it's saying, wait a minute, maybe we don't even understand the right message. We think we know the right message and how to send the solution, but we might be completely wrong. What if we could do a very small campaign, put it out there, see the reaction from the market, and then we'll invest in maybe kind of the cheaper stuff. So we're going to put some things out on mobile and some things out on the website. And then, wow, this is going well. Okay, now I'm going to extend it to actually doing some things on TV. Oh, this is still going well. Okay, and I'll refine the message. Okay, now I'll take you to television or billboards, which are a lot more expensive. And it doesn't just stop with campaigns. It's the entire hypothesis about messaging. Just like in software product, we move from the phase of we know everything the customer wants, and we can just build it, we'll design it, we'll work in waterfall, we'll build the requirements, we'll build the design, we'll build the code, we'll test it, and the customer had better be happy because we know what they need. And we change it to a more iterative approach of let's build something small. Let's check with the customers if that's what they want. Now we're seeing the same view and the same work from marketing as they're starting to evolve. What does it mean to be a marketing in this new world? How can we align with this thing? How can we test these things? And it's very fascinating to think about how you can test the messaging and understand what works, what words work, and understand that at the end of the day, if you can get this to work, if I build the world's best product, it's really number one. Nobody knows about it, and nobody cares about it. Nobody's going to buy it. So we need to understand that in order to achieve the value to our customers, it's a complete process. But it doesn't just stop at marketing. if you want to take the overall view, and we're seeing that right now in the market because people are coming and saying, marketing, that's interesting. What about HR? What about human resources? We now have a huge problem where the human resource side is very slow. As we're moving to Agile, we need different roles. We need different progression schemes. I become a Scrum Master. That's a new role. What's my next role after that? How do I evolve those things? How do we think of compensation? How do we think of, of evaluation in a different way? And so really thinking about two things. HR for Agile. How do we make HR more compatible with agility? And then Agile HR. How do we help HR professionals work in a more agile way? And it's not just HR, it's finance. So we've put a lot of effort in SAFe to rethinking some of the financial aspects because they're so important, like budgeting and participatory budgeting and budgeting for value streams. But if the finance department isn't on board, if they're not on board with helping us create better finance sections, or if I have the best product in the world and I also have the messaging from it for marketing, but getting a new price or changing the way we license and price takes a year to decide in our company, I won't be able to get it out there into the market any faster or react to things like COVID-19 or any market evolution that happens. Same is true for legal or for sales. How do I engage with sales in a different way? How do I engage with procurement? Procurement, in a lot of places, is a sticking point where things, you just wait there for a long time before you can get anything approved. And so it's starting to slow down the entire processes. And so as we're thinking of the overall value stream, as we're thinking of the overall value, as we're going from a small team where we started, a small team that was doing software, just software, to how do we think and be able to change our entire strategy as a company, as a bank, as an insurance company, as a software company? How can we change our entire strategy and shift direction very quickly? These are the kind of thinking that we need to embody. This is the kind of the journey that we're on right now, from thinking of Agile just in software to thinking of it in the business context. And only then, when we can bring software, hardware, marketing, finance, legal, procurement, security, audit, everybody to the table, and get everybody comfortable with the fact that we need to work faster while still being safe, while still being secure, while still creating high quality software, while still creating good legal documentation, while still creating a credible marketing product, while still building things on brand. When we have everybody join that value stream, only then can we achieve real flow from an idea or the need to change something to a release and true value to customers. And that ability to really compete and change direction in these turbulent time that we are right now, where there are whirlpools and and things are changing and the water is very unpredictable. This is when we need agility more than ever, not just at the software level, but at every level of our organizations. That's what's going to take us to the new phase. That's what's going to help us achieve the next level of agility, the next level of success, the next level of success for our enterprises and our business and our customers, helping them have the right solutions and the right products when they need them. And when we look at our vision as SAI, we like to say that we're providing kind of this thing that enables this, but at the end of the time, our role is to help companies take this knowledge and build those amazing products for their customers, because those products change the world. They make the world a better place. And we see this. These are pharmaceutical companies that can create cancer patient treatment faster, or law enforcement agencies. And we just had a visitor to our own PI planning, a law enforcement agency, that said how it enabled them to apprehend criminals faster through the usage of SAFe. And so this makes the world a better place. Business agility and allowing companies to pivot direction faster is going to help make the world a better place and help all of us be more successful. So with this, I want to thank you for listening to what I hope was easy to understand with that translation. And I just want to again thank you and say domo arigatou gozaimashita. And and ask if there, and I think Koba-san will take responsibility here and guide us through any questions we might have. And I apologize that my Japanese is not nearly good enough that I can actually have this meeting in Japanese, but hopefully maybe that's something in the future. Not right now. So thank you.
はい。インバーさんどうもありがとうございました。皆さんいかがでしたでしょうか。インバーさんはですね、インバーですね、